All right, welcome to our Wednesday Name Tags Chat podcast. Today, we're joined by Tyler Carter, who has an alias of Captain America. We will get to that. Is an ice cream lover, is a two-time Paralympian, and is now working at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum on the guest experience team. Can we start with that? The guest experience. So this is a recent thing because the museum just opened, right? So what's your
Yeah,
job on the guest experience team?
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on tonight, Chris. Appreciate it. Yeah, the museum is amazing. We're so excited that the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum is now officially open. Opened, midsummer. We're still open even with the craziness going on. And yeah, I'm one of the supervisors on the leadership team for our guest experience side. So helping run that side of things, making sure every guest coming in has an amazing experience. They get to hear the stories of our Team USA athletes. It is home for our Olympians and Paralympians, and we just want to make sure we store, and honor all of the athletes and their stories there, and the artifacts that we have, and all the different interactive displays. And honestly, it's just an amazing place. Every day I walk in, it's just so great and an honor to be there.
Now, this is an historic place, right? Because there really wasn't a museum prior to this. There was some sort of smaller kinds of museums, but not a museum that really celebrated the Olympics and the Paralympics. Obviously, opening during COVID was not optimal. But what's the objective of the museum? Because we've been competing for a long time. Is this 1896 or is it before that? I don't know that we were competing before that, but how is that working?
We have it all. So we like to, when you come in, you get your tickets, you check in, you go through a registration process where you get to pick your favorite winter and summer sports, Olympic or Paralympic. So you get to kind of, customize your own journey. And then we have our virtual Hall of Fame there. So every Hall of Famer is stored there. We have, their information, their, videos of them. I remember watching your video the other day. So you're in there. You're one that I point out quite often. But honestly, we have the Hall of Fame in our lobby atrium area, our massive LED display wall, which we can, customize with different photos and images. And then our physical Hall of Fame name, list of all the years and the inductees. And then you take the elevator up and you start at the ancient games history. So 776 BC is when they originally started. It goes until 393 AD. So we go through all that history. Then modern games were started in 1896. We have all of the torches there. To my knowledge, we are the only place in the world that has a full collection of every Olympic torch, which is insane.
That's from 1896 then, right? So that's from the modern Olympics, or?
So it would be 1932, I believe, or Berlin, when Berlin hosted the games, because that was the first time they started the torch, or 36. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Starts with that is our first torch. And then it goes all the way. We have torches even from Tokyo, because we had two locals go and give that or be part of the relay before it got postponed. So we were able to get one of the Tokyo torches as well.
That is super cool.
And yeah, it's just amazing. And one last thing, on that, which I know you're going to love as well, is we have a whole case dedicated to the Paralympics, the start of the Paralympics in 1960, and then as it progressed through the years, which is one of my favorite parts of the museum.
So Paralympics from 1960 then. So from Rome in 1960 on the Paralympic side. I mean, not going all the way back to Stoke, which wasn't called the Paralympics, but that was 48, right?
Right. And correct. We do have acknowledgement to the Stoke Mandeville games as well in 1948, kind of showing the history of, briefly, because there's, a lot of history, but showing how they started, how they progressed into the Paralympics. I mean, the logo changed a few times of what the symbol for the Paralympics stood for. So kind of the history of that as well. It's really cool. That's all I can really say. It's just amazing.
Awesome. Now, you said that so much of your job is telling the story, right? What are your What are your favorite stories to tell? How are you hooking people as they're coming through the museum?
For sure. And like, I don't want to ruin everyone, of course, because we want y'all to come in and hear them firsthand. But beyond managing our guest experience team, or our day-to-day operations, obviously we want to tell the stories, the start of the Paralympics. I mean, you and I both have a passion for the Paralympic side, of course. So just making sure they're getting the right representation. We haven't always had that. And now that we have a home, we have a place where not just for the athletes, but the Paralympics and the U.S. Paralympic movement really can be shown properly. Making sure that's shown. John Register has his prosthetic in there, his running leg from the Atlanta Games, which is one of my favorite stories, talking about that. We have the bobsled named the Night Train from the 2010 Vancouver Olympics, which ended up being the first gold since 1948 for Team USA in bobsled. So for me, that's another favorite, also because I was watching that race on TV back in 2010, like cheering them on. So seeing that bobsled there is just incredible. I mean, those are two of my favorites. There's a ton more. Really, you can walk into any spot of the museum and there's history and stories to talk about.
But it makes it personal too, right? You said you were watching that night train sled from 2010 in Vancouver. You're watching it on television, which is cool. And you're there and you're in the moment, but to be able to touch it then, it's kind of like you're really connected with that history. When I got inducted into the Hall of Fame last year, I was inducted with Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who are the guys in 1968 with the Black Power salute. And for me, that was so cool to be close to them, to be included with them, because they were just such an important part of history of the games. Are there people that you look at in the museum who you say, those are Rayford Johnson just died, right? So, which is another one who is just absolutely amazing, gold medal in the decathlon back in 1960. And so are there any people that you look at and say, those are the people who, for me, define what it means to be Olympian. So those are the people who define what it means to be a Paralympian.
I mean, I can't walk into a gallery without, getting goosebumps of all of the athletes that have come before and really paved the way. I mean, I think one that really comes to mind is Trisha Zorn, like how big of a role she played in the Paralympics and how dominant she was. And then Candace Cable as well. There's, she's mentioned throughout the museum. I think those two especially really in the Paralympic movement as well, just, set the way for us to really, go through, and their success and records, are incredible. But they're just two. I mean, there's so many stories, so many greats there, that it's hard to pick. But I know when I walk into the galleries where they're featured, I get the goosebumps. Like it's exciting.
Now you're going to have to describe a little bit. You threw out Trisha and Candace. So describe who Trisha is first, and then we'll describe Candace afterwards. So do you remember? Because she won a lot of medals. So let's see if you can.
55 medals.
How many did Michael Phelps win?
Not 55. It was 28 or 28. I could be wrong. I knew this. I should know Michael Phelps ones, but honestly, Trisha Zorn for me is my my hero, I guess, from that. So I just think she's incredible. How how many games she went to and just dominated. And I believe it was like 50 gold out of that 55 or something very similar to that. It was one of the highest number of golds, highest number of medals for any Team USA athlete, which is just insane. Like, how do you do that?
50 of 55. I think you're right on that. And Michael Phelps actually was 23 gold and 28 total.
Okay, so 28 total. So yeah, so I was
28 total. You were right on
those 23 gold. So yeah.
And we're used to kind of the Mark Spitz, right? Mm-hmm. Back when he won when he won 7 prior to Phelps winning 8, and he had all of the medals around his neck. And if you look at Trisha and you go, how do you put 55 medals around your neck? That's just a ton. And she was a swimmer as well, was just missed making the Olympic team, making a couple of Olympic teams. But it was super successful, and there have been numerous Natalie Dettois, was that her name, from South Africa, actually competed in both the Olympics and in the Paralympics in swimming. She was an open water swimmer in the Olympics, and then competed in a variety of events in the Paralympics. But so Trisha, 55 medals. We're thinking, and I can probably Google that as well, but 55 medals, and you think 50 of them were gold, which is amazing. Now, you mentioned Candace Cable as well. I actually talked to Candace today and trying to get her on this thing. So we'll get her on as well. So this will be a great introduction to who Candace is.
Yeah, I mean, so my funny, like, personal story with Candace is I remember talking with her over when I was at the games. Like, she was there doing some media stuff, and I was talking with her there, and we were just kind of sharing stories about, her time and my time. And, I don't know if she remembers that or not. She talked to a lot of athletes during her time there, but the fact that, she was so long in the sport, Alpine, she did some Nordic skiing, I believe, did summer as well. And I'm just like, I'm looking at it. All right. hopefully we'll have one more go at the games. We'll see what happens after Beijing, but I'm like, 3 times, I think that will be a good stretch for me. But just seeing how long and how dominant, Candace was, and Trisha, and all of these greats before, it's really impressive. And every day I walk in, again, it's hard to not be motivated and, just want to share these stories with the whole world.
It really is. And I remember Candace was on the Alpine team when I first started. And at my first camp, you're staying in the hotel and it's cold out. So you go to the pool in between and go warm up a little bit. And I saw Candace in her swimsuit, and she was one of the top road racers. She was a Boston Marathon winner and track athlete as well. And I saw her and went, wow, she is way, way, way stronger than I am. And so she did road racing and track. She did Alpine skiing. She did Nordic skiing. I think, and I'd have to check, I have not done the research, but it's at least, I want to say it's close to 10 games. Something like that.
I think you're right.
Might be 12.
I think it's at least 10. I just remember we were doing a walkthrough yesterday. I just went in to kind of check on a few things, and there's a quote of her on the wall and her games. And I just remember looking at the games, and I was like, my goodness, that's impressive. It's amazing. And that's what we're doing there. We're sharing the stories. We're honoring the athletes. I mean, it's home. It's home for all of us, for the Olympians, for the Paralympians, for the fans of the games, anyone that watches them. But having a place, as we mentioned at the beginning, that this is the first place we've had that is home, that we can really call that, and will always be there for us.
It's a big deal. And it's big for people to be able to see that, to be part of that history. I think that so many of us grow up watching the Olympics on television and getting to know those people, feel like we get to know them, but to be able to go and celebrate and read some more and learn things that we wouldn't have known otherwise. Does it change, like, telling the story of the Olympians and the Paralympians? You're still current. You've competed in 2 games, competed in Sochi, competed in Pyeongchang, and have had some injury problems. We'll talk about that in a second. But does that change what you want to do, being close to all these stories, being close to all this history?
You know what? I can't say enough. It's a really special place. And I didn't think I'd be in this role. Honestly, if everything didn't happen the way it did this year with, lockdowns and kind of events getting canceled, I probably would still be training at the training center. I'd be part-time. Maybe I'd be working at the museum like a, once or twice a week kind of role. I would not have been in this position to be able to share these stories, to be able to, really take that step and bring the athlete perspective. But kind of the way things worked out and opportunities presented themselves, and I kind of stepped right into it, and I love it. I mean, I'm really happy at the museum, and I think it's going to be a place I'll be for a good while, and assuming that they still want me there for a while. But once whenever I retire, whenever that happens to be, I'd love to kind of continue building out that process and, making sure that the athletes' voices are heard, or at least heard in the museum. And we can do whatever possible to make sure that they're honored, and the legacies that stay there, and we can share them with every guest that walks in, and especially making sure that everyone knows about the Paralympics, because that has not always been the case. So, everyone thinks about the Olympics, but making sure that the Paralympics have that equality, which the museum has done an amazing job of. It truly is equal. The only place you'll see separation is the very first gallery, where the Paralympics didn't happen in 776 BC. They didn't happen in 1896. So that is the only place where there is separation between the two. Otherwise, everything is equally combined and integrated together, which, really is a testament to how far we've come. And obviously there's still always work to do, but it is good progress for us in the movement.
It is. And it's interesting. So the Paralympics, as what was the precursor to the Paralympics, started in 1948. So you mentioned Berlin in 36. There were 12 years in between Berlin and London in 48. And the Paralympics literally means parallel to the Olympics. It started, the Stoke Mandeville Games started on the same day that the Olympics started in London. So it's about an hour's drive, I think, from London to Stoke Mandeville. And then you said with Rome in 1960, I believe that Seoul in 88 was the first time that was the start of the first venue, right? So,
Yep.
So then since then, the Paralympics and Olympics have been at the same host city, competed in the same venues, and it's just 2 weeks after the Olympics end. Now, is this something you studied communications? Is this kind of a dream job? And part of the reason I asked that is we actually had Amanda McGrory on here, who is the archivist there. And she said, this is exactly what I wanted to do. Like, this is my dream job. And one of the things, like this talk comes out of our school presentations, and I often tell the kids that the greatest risk you take is taking no risk at all. That if we just kind of follow the straight and narrow, we might miss something that's really important to you. And professionally, is this something that was a dream job for you? Or is this something that kind of opened your eyes to, hey, wow, this sort of captures all of what I do? Or is it something else?
I think this is absolutely a job I love. It's very close to a dream job. I think this is the building block, the kind of stepping stone that will get me to that dream job. But honestly, I can't complain at all. I mean, being able to work there, being able with the team we have a phenomenal team, every day walking into the museum, there's no complaints. Even if the day, everything's going wrong, it's such an incredible place with so much history that, and I get to hear these stories. Like, I get to walk in and talk to guests, share stories, make sure that the athletes are being represented properly. Like, I can't really ask for much more. And as we grow and build, I can't wait to see what it turns into. I love speaking. I love talking. I just had 3 school virtual presentations this morning before this. So for me, like, being able to have another venue, another opportunity to do it, it's pretty darn close to what a dream job could be.
Is this also an extension of what you do as a Paralympic athlete?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being able to come in with kind of that knowledge of being a Paralympic athlete, having gone to the games, knowing what it's like to be an athlete and experience that, has really helped. It's helped the team. I believe it's been able to, put my own twist on things, but it is just an extension. It's, what I've already been doing on my own, but now I get to come in and do it at this brand spanking new, shiny building, which, that it's, it's an architectural, amazingness piece of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just an amazing design. It's one of a kind. You're not going to see anything else like it out there. And, we were just talking yesterday about the designers, the architects of it, and how that firm is one of the top 5 ones in the world that are sought after. And the fact that we got them to come to Colorado Springs and design this museum for us, like, how cool is that?
And what did they do particularly well in the design?
So one really cool thing is that the outside is shaped as a discus thrower, or it has a spiral of it, which is designed after a discus thrower. And one other feature that to me makes this one of the, stands us apart from anywhere else, is that it is not just completely accessible, but it's universally designed so that you take an elevator up to the top and it's all a spiral ramp down. So there are no steps in the journey. Every guest can have the same experience, the same, time and walk through. There's no separation, for having to go down steps or whatever. And we have different features to accommodate anyone that has, whether it's a disability or whether they have some kind of impairment or just, need something a little extra. We have those options there for the guests so that everyone can enjoy their experience and, still have a great time, no matter if they're walking, if they're in a wheelchair, if they can't see or can't hear well, it doesn't matter.
Wow. Now, does anybody comment on that? Do they get it? Or are you telling them that it's the same experience for everybody? Or are they commenting on it, or do they not even notice it?
It varies. We've definitely got comments. We've gotten a lot of, positive feedback on, those features. We're always looking to improve and advance, and, we got it ready to be open, but there's always work to do. Sometimes we tell guests because they don't even notice. They're like, hey, why is it, an elevator up, or why is it all ramps? And we go into it and we talk about it, but we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the adaptive community. I don't want to speak as a whole for them, for every guest that has come in, but from what I've heard, everyone's having an amazing time. They're enjoying their experience. And again, the fact that it's a spiral down, it's a journey, it's a pathway, it's a, navigated story, so that, you start from the top, you go to the bottom, and we do our best to make it the best, an amazing experience for each guest. Whatever we have to do to adapt or change, we'll do that. But for the most part, the museum takes care of itself.
Wow. Now, you are still competing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're competing part-time. You're still training at Winter Park. Is that right?
Yes. So the plan is to be up there 4 days of the week, and then down at the museum 3 days. And then I do have some work I sometimes do when I'm off at the slopes, because the museum doesn't really close. So that means I can't really, totally check out, but trying to find a good balance of it. And so far it's been going well. It's still early in the season, but we're going to make the most of it and see what happens.
It is. We were talking before we came online about how difficult the schedule is with regard to COVID right now. What are your hopes? How are you looking at the season, and what are your goals?
Yeah, I mean, this season, I feel like it's changing like every week or every day. I mean, we were supposed to have world champs in February over in Europe, and that was postponed until next season. Our first races of the year were supposed to be in the next week or so. That's been postponed until February. So each day or each week, it's kind of something new. So my focus has shifted from, really trying to attend as many races as possible and really kind of hunt for those points, to taking the season, taking the time to make sure we're getting the fundamentals back, making sure we're focusing on the kind of nitty gritty little components that you need, as for skiing, all those little things that you always feel like you don't have enough time for once the season starts. Taking this extra time that we kind of have, even though it was a bit of a slow start, and making the most of it. I mean, if I don't get to many races, but I get a lot of good training in, I think that's a win. I mean, we'll still have some time there. I don't want things to be all pushed back until next season and have to last minute make sure all the qualifications are there. But having a little extra time, and especially since the last few seasons, I've they've been kind of cut half in different ways for me that, I'm not complaining about a little extra time on snow and a little time to focus on the basics so that I can be prepared for, hopefully Beijing in 2022.
So Beijing is the goal, the ultimate goal.
Yes.
And you have to take the steps, which is really not all that far away, right? So that's what it's like 15 months or something like that away.
Yes. It's a little closer than, each day I kind of look at the calendar like, oh, wow, it's closer than I think. But, you know what, you got to take it day by day, week by week and season by season. So I know it's there. I know it's not that far away, but it's in the back of my mind, but I can't focus too much on it because I have to be here in the present and really focus on where I'm at and making sure I'm getting ready and going through the process instead of kind of having my head in the clouds and totally set on, what's going to happen then. Obviously, that is the goal. That is my focus. I'm preparing for that, but I have to make sure right now that I'm doing what I need to in the present time. So it's a good balancing act, as I'm sure, you remember and know as, being an athlete, like you have your head you have your vision set in the future, but your head and you got to be here in the present as well.
Well, you're only going to be able to compete well if you're in the present. And that is the biggest challenge for athletes and for all of us as individuals is to be in the moment. Are you healthy? Because there have been some health issues in the past, right?
Yeah. I would say I'm as healthy as I can be. This just everything going on. I'm a little, strength wise, I wish I was a little stronger. I can't complain. I made the most of my time. And I feel like that's the athlete side of me. Like, man, I wish I was a little stronger. I wish I was a little, more prepared, but I did what I could. And yes, I'm healthy. I'm ready to go. The last couple of years have not been the easiest, but that's part of being an athlete. And we're, still got a smile on my face and, I'm ready to rip and go down the hill.
We've all had to be creative during this period of time. So you're talking about you wish you were stronger. What have you done with your training what's been different about your training than in the past?
I got a real late start to kind of the physical fitness work, that dry land training. Thankfully I was able to, my dad and I were able to build a squat rack when I was in Pennsylvania with my family, just kind of waiting out some of this before I came back to Colorado. We were able to acquire some weights. We already had some. So it was kind of like June where I was able to really start hitting the weights again. And then I came back to the Springs and gyms were kind of open, kind of not. So I kind of had a little bit of a period where I could only do outside workouts, so like agility ladder type work, all body weight stuff, which was fine, but obviously do need some heavier plates, some heavier work just to build that strength up. But I really just feel like, as I'm sure nearly every athlete could say right now, is that this just with everything going on, wasn't able to get in the routine I normally do. So I feel less prepared than I normally am. In fact, I'm probably right where I need to be, but it's just that kind of perfectionist side of me, that side that always wants to push a little more, be a little stronger, keep, building towards that goal that I'm never happy in until I'm like, all the way at the top, I guess.
Right. Which is what you have to do, but you're also building back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to do additional work to get back from the injury in order to get back to where you thought you were before?
Yes, I did. 2 years ago, I had a knee injury, which I had a hamstring and PCL strain. And while I got it checked out and there wasn't really much we could do besides let it heal, it really did set things back. And then I re-injured my PCL when I tried to come back for national. So I had to get that taken care of. So
and is this on your good leg or is this on your amputated leg? Because you're an LW4, which means you're a below the knee amputee. So,
correct. Yeah. It was my amputated leg. So my prosthetic side, which in some way, yeah, it's good that my full limb, my good leg was still healthy. But on the flip side, every time I went to wear my prosthesis, my, fake leg, it was painful. So my ski leg, my walking leg, like, it just really extended that healing process. And then re-aggravating things at nationals 2 years ago just was kind of the unfortunate side effect of just fighting to get back. So I came back, or I took time off, really got healthy, had it taken care of, docs, kind of looked at it and made sure I was healthy, came back strongest I was ever in my life. And then right as, all this craziness with coronavirus was hitting, I had some issues pop up where my leg wasn't fitting properly, and basically really messed up my knee as well, that same knee. So really doing double damage to that. And in long story short, I couldn't wear my leg for about 3 months. So I went about 3 months without wearing my prosthetic.
Wow. So that totally changes your whole dynamic. Coming back from injury is something that athletes have to do. There's the physical side of it, but then there's the mental side of it. And it sounds like you had challenges with, I thought I was getting better. I was as strong as I've ever been. And then you start going backwards. How were you able to handle the mental side? And are you stronger now? Or are you still working on that?
The mental game is very important. And I'd say right now I'm in a really good mental spot. I wouldn't say I've been that way. It was a long process to get here, but I definitely have been able to strengthen that and rebuild that. And physically I'm strong, but really mentally I've been able to kind of repair and restructure some of that. But it was hard. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, after that, having that issue with my leg, and then another issue with my leg, and then not being able to wear my prosthetic, and just, going into lockdown, not being able to be in Colorado Springs, not training at the training center or giving tours there, which is what I did before I started working at the museum. It felt like everything was kind of taken away. And I had to take some time and be with my family, and really, I checked out for a little bit. I kind of relaxed. I stopped being an athlete for a month or so, and just really took that opportunity to recharge, to get away from everything. And then once I could start wearing my leg again, and, we were healed up, I was like, okay, this is it. It's now time to get back on the horse, or get back on the skis. And, we're back in work mode. And it's been that way since the summer, or since I came back out here. And I can't say it's always been, smooth sailing, but it's been a balancing act. But I definitely have learned a lot, and have learned time management between work and training, and taking care of myself. And we're in a good spot from that. It was a hard learning experience, but it's good.
It was. One of the things that we do with our program is we have what we call our 4 S's of resilience. And they're questions that we can ask ourselves when things go wrong. And the one that you're talking about is support. And it's really easy to feel alone when you're in the midst of all of these things. You said that you connected with your family. Is that the support that you go to, or what is your support when something's difficult for you?
Yeah, I'd say they're probably one of the top ones. They're my strongest support system. Once upon a time, they were the financial support, but now they're the, emotional support. They're the, if I'm having a bad day, I can call my mom or my dad, and, let them know what's going on. And, they might not say anything, or they might say a lot of stuff, or let's be honest, they might say, get your, head back on right, and get your butt out there and do what you're supposed to do. But that's what you need to hear sometimes. And I've been really lucky to have them as a strong support base. And I built a really good group of friends around here as well from the museum. There's been a few coworkers that I've really been able to connect with. And the crazy thing is, they're not athletes themselves. They're they found the role as something to do, and we've bonded just over the museum. And I could honestly say they're some of my best friends in the world. And they've now kind of taken that role, because I can't go back to Pennsylvania right now. I mean, I'm not, I could if I really wanted to, but I want to protect them. I want to protect myself. And I'm not really looking to travel unless it's absolutely necessary at this point in time. So having some friends here, having some people that understand, it's really important.
Do the people who work with you at the museum, do they understand the athlete side of what you're going through? Is what you're going through unique? Is it different than what other people go through?
It's funny. That's a really good question, Chris. It's funny because it is very different, I think, than what, non-athletes go through or just anyone, being an athlete just has its own little twist. But at the same time, there are similarities to what everyone goes through in life. So I think they're able to find enough connection with that to be able to provide support, or honestly just be a listening post. Sometimes that's what you need, or just someone to, at the end of the night, just, talk to, about nothing related to work or to the athletic world, and just, watch something else. I found that to be really beneficial, because you said alone earlier, about feeling alone or lonely. And I think that's such an athlete thing, especially individual sports. And not everyone's that way, but I mean, myself, between the long hours working, the long hours training, going to the gym, making sure you're prepared, getting good food in you, there's not a lot of free time for hanging out with friends. And I think that's what I've learned the most, is trying to make some of that time, really trying to find those people that it doesn't feel like it's a hassle or work to hang out with. And I could just go over and, even if it's for half an hour, I always joke, take my leg off, because that's the equivalent of taking the shoes off, take my leg off, and just hang out for a little bit and just forget about whatever's going on in the world. And then when it's time to come back, I'm back and laser focused.
Beijing would be your third games, right?
Correct.
When did the dream to be a Paralympian start?
Really good question. And I can tell you exactly, it started in 2010. It's funny because we talked about the bobsled story earlier. Right after the Olympics, I had a scholarship to go watch the Vancouver Paralympics. So I got to go spectate to see the opening ceremonies, see all the different events, part of the Paralympic experience movement through the US OC at that time. And going there and sitting in the opening ceremonies, watching all the athletes come in, but specifically Team USA, that is where that spark ignited. And I was like, I don't know if it's possible. I know it's not going to be easy, but I absolutely want to be a part of this. And, I have 4 years to get ready for Sochi, and I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. So that night, opening ceremonies, the dream was born. And from then on, skiing went from being a hobby. It was still something I loved to do, but it wasn't just a recreation thing anymore. It was now my life. It was, everything I had went into it. And how is that going to get me on the team?
That's one of those. I mean, it's obvious you're working at the museum. I'm sort of getting the goosebumps as you're talking about it. So thank you for that, because that is what this stuff's about, though, isn't it? I mean, it really is about that, the most spectacular of human experiences and putting yourself out there. How much skiing had you done prior to going to Vancouver?
I started skiing when I was 8. In Vancouver, I was 16. So I had a bit of skiing, and I had started getting into the race side component, training with the National Sports Center for the Disabled out of Winter Park, Colorado. They kind of brought me into their fold when I was 10. So after 2 years of going to a Learn to Ski camp through the Pennsylvania Center for Adapted Sports, they pulled me out to Winter Park, and I started progressing with them. I had attended.
Was this like camps? You're not full time with Winter Park.
Correct. Camps.
You're still in school, hopefully, too, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. It wasn't until I got out of high school that I started full time coming out here. Education is important. As much as I joked about taking educational trips from Pennsylvania to Colorado, it really was an important part of the process. But I would come out usually a week before a race, or if the timing worked, 2 weeks before, get some training in, and then go with the Winter Park team to the races. I attended the Hartford Ski Spectacular through what was then Disabled Sports USA. Now, of course, it's Move United. but they were a huge part of getting me into it. And all of this led to Vancouver, to me having that experience, that moment, and realizing that's what I wanted to do. But until I was there in the stadium watching, one, I didn't think it was possible, but two, I didn't have that desire. I knew it was a possibility, but that desire wasn't born until that night.
That's interesting because you were able to train at Winter Park with a fair number of athletes who were going to the Paralympics. So you saw them on a personal basis. You saw them as individuals. And then it was the moment in the stadium where you said, this is real. So what is that? Is that the feeling in the stadium, or what was the thing that grabbed you?
I mean, I think the feeling in the stadium, you definitely can't push that off to the side. Like, that is, there's no other feeling like that. I mean, being a spectator is exciting. And then when you actually get to march in and walk, that's a whole nother thing. So just that feeling of spectating it. And I think the other component is seeing those teammates, those friends, athletes that I looked up to, that I had trained with, seeing them walking in and being part of that. It made it real. It wasn't this whole lofty thing. I mean, I knew it was still going to be a difficult journey, and there was no easy path, but it wasn't like totally out there, way over my head. I was like, okay, like, I've been around these guys. I've raced these guys already. And yeah, I'm very far off their pace, but I can get there. I can devote to this and maybe get close within striking distance. And that's when it really became realistic and tangible. That's really like when it all came together.
So that's an interesting combination, right? Because you see like the grand stage of the pomp and circumstance of the opening ceremonies and go, wow, this is bigger than I'd imagined. But then you see the personal side and go, okay, well, I know that guy and I know he's faster than I am, but at least I know him. And it almost makes it sort of real to say, okay, I might be able to get there. What do you have to do now to get back there again?
Oh man, another great question. Honestly, what it comes down to is I need to stay healthy. That's first and foremost one of my most important focuses right now, between gym work, nutrition, but really just taking care of myself, the physical side, but also the mental side. I'm in a great spot right now. I want to maintain that. So I don't really want to slip on that. So keep, doing what I'm doing, staying on that path. Two, obviously just need some more time on snow. The past 2 seasons, I don't think I even had a full season between them. I think it was maybe like, a little over half of a season the last two years. So I need time on snow. I need to get those ski legs back, get the rust off. But it's just, I know we can get back there. I have full confidence in that. I just now have to come back to that. We're not that far out, and this next stretch is probably going to be the hardest push I've had in my life. And I want to say I'm ready for that, but whether I'm ready or not, it's here, and this is go time. This is where I need to put down to the grindstone, get ready, and kind of hang on for dear life. And when we get there, I'll look back and be like, all right, it's time to go. Let's do this.
One of our other S's in our 4 S's is strategies. So you said, I need to be healthy. What are your strategies to be healthy? What's your plan?
Absolutely. Look, that great point, great question. I love the strategy component. First and foremost, I have a wide range of exercises, that I've acquired from physical therapists that are critical to this, just making sure I'm staying strong. So as much as I love to go to the gym and lift and, really push myself in that component, this kind of simple, but, important first stepping stone of using resistance bands, doing the really kind of boring work. That is the first part of my strategy for staying healthy. 2 is, in the same way with strategy, being strategic on how much I train, what days I train. I mean, I was up in Winter Park the other day and we had quite a bit of fresh snow, and they were trying to figure out if they could train or not. And I did one slip run and I'm going to be like, okay, it's first thing in the season. This is a little deep for what I would prefer. I'm not trying to be lazy, but I'm going to be honest. The risk right here is too much versus what the reward's going to be. And it's funny because I ended up pulling 3 runs after that, but I took that first run and I was like, this is just not worth it. And it's not something that I've really done before in my life, but I'm going to have to make more decisions like that just because I know I'm healthy now, but I also know that, damage was done, and I have to make sure that I'm staying on point with this.
Well, this is part of it too, is taking the responsibility for your health, taking the responsibility for your performance, and being able to make good decisions, it's easy enough to follow the crowd. And sometimes making those proactive decisions is a bigger decision, is a bigger, question in your own mind. So specifically to get onto the team, are there things that you're looking at? Because you have to be healthy, you have to have the foundation, but then I'm assuming you have to have certain results in order to qualify for the team. Do you know what the selection is yet? Selection criteria?
So for Beijing, not totally sure how many spots we're going to have, what that selection process is going to be like. Going off of previous, the last 2 games, I'm already in a decent position where I am. Obviously, I'd like to secure a little better results and just really make sure I'm locked in. But we'll know more once we know how many spots we get. And not having world champs this year, I don't know how that affects the equation, because I believe world champs and performance there and how you did in the last games, they all come together to figure out that quota. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know all that. And in a way, I don't really need to know that until it's time. Right now, if I just stay focused on myself and what I need to do, that's the best plan of approach. Because if I'm worrying about stuff outside of my control, well, that's energy wasted. So I need to stay focused on what I can control, the parameters that are within my realm, and the rest will figure itself out.
Sounds like you've been doing a little bit of sports psychology in your ramping up as well. Control what you can control. Don't control what you can't control. Is that a component of your training?
Absolutely. I do work with a sports psychologist. It's mostly on a when I need basis, but we do have a kind of a recurring, just check in. But I'd like to say I've learned a few things over the years, most of them through trial and error and from, making mistakes. Some of it, I've learned the hard way, but I've picked up a few things and I've kind of figured out what I need and, how much rest time do I need? How much training time do I need? Do I need to check in with my sports psych every week, or can I get away with a month? I've kind of been able to dial that in and really figure out what is best for myself and listen to my body and my mind. I think that's what it comes down to. And I think, all of athletes that are able to figure that out are the ones, whether it's total success on the podium or not, they will have success in their careers and journeys at some point.
Is there anything that you do on a daily basis to prepare yourself mentally for that particular day, but also for the big day, which might be months down the road or might be more than a year away? Are there any particular steps that you take on a daily basis?
I'm a big fan of meditation. I think meditation is really important. Even if it's just a short little session, breathing exercises I found critical to what I need to do. Even if it's just as simple as, 6 breaths in, 4 breaths out, or there's different combinations you can do of that, which have different results, but just being able to relax yourself for the day. I always like to get up. I wouldn't say I'm a morning person, but I also tend to wake up earlier than early anyway. That's just kind of how my mind gets going. And when my mind's going, it's time to go. So getting up, doing a little meditation and just some breaths in the body and just focusing the mind. And it's funny because I was talking about goal setting and perseverance and decision-making with these classrooms earlier today. And when we were talking about goal setting, something that I've always used and has worked for me is writing down my goals in a journal. or on a piece of paper, putting up on a wall. Once you have it physically written down, it's out there in the universe and you can't forget about it. I mean, well, you can try, but if it's there on a piece of paper, you can see it every single day. And for me, that has been a huge part of it. Even if it's as simple as, go out and have a positive day, or don't forget to smile, like just little things like that. And at the end of the day, I mean, I hope everyone does it is like this, but I ski because I love it. I really enjoy it. I go to the museum because, well, one, I get a paycheck, but two, I really do love working there. I love telling the stories. So for me, even on those hard days, even when training's kind of, crummy, or I don't feel the best, remembering why I do this, why I'm in this area, and remembering the joy of it, that usually is the catalyst for staying on point with all of this.
Is that easy enough for you to do, to remember in those moments? Because it gets hard, right? I mean, as everything's going wrong, you hurt, you're bloody, whatever. And can you remember why you're doing it in those moments when it's most difficult? And do you have any kind of a a strategy or an assist that helps you remember when it's most critical?
It's not a perfect practice, and I even forget sometimes, but over time, with experience, I've been able to figure out those cues that help me remember that and stay focused. And there was a long period of time where I wrote down on a piece of paper some of those goals and had it like in my pocket. So I if I'm riding the chairlift, I'd, have in my pocket, remember to smile, remember to have fun. Now I can just put it on my cell phone because, that's a little easier, and I don't lose that as easily as much as a piece of paper. But just having said it to myself enough.
Now, do you have the handwritten? Do you hand write it and then take a photo on your cell phone, or do you type it into your cell phone?
I type it in. I don't actually take a photo of the note. I actually type it into my notes, and that's because I have so many photos. I'll just get lost in the madness of that. But honestly,
well, it could be your screensaver, right? It could be your screensaver.
Okay.
And at which point then it's obvious to anybody else when your phone rings or you get a text or something. People are like, hey, Tyler, what's that like?
I mean, you're right. And that is a great idea. I'm going to be honest. My screensaver is Captain America. So I don't really want to replace that. And also it does play into that role. I look at Captain America and I'm like, what would Cap do? And I'm like, oh, okay. He would suck it up and do this. Or he's like, you know what? He would make sure that he goes out and takes care of others, or, you know what, maybe even Captain America would take an off day here.
Now, you hope to put USA on your chest again. You've transitioned into Captain America. What is that? What do those two things mean? And are they the same thing? The love of Captain America and getting to wear USA, which is a huge honor.
I mean, I definitely think there's a good relation between the two. Everyone always asks why Captain America. And the short version is I really like what he stands for. And I know, he's a fictional character, but I grew up reading comics. I love the movies when they came out. Life hasn't always been easy. Everyone's has challenges, and that's, I'm no exception. And I'm not trying to start some, story on that. But, there was some bullying going on when I was younger, and just learning to live as an amputee. It is different. Having a disability, some things you have to do differently. And I always found Captain America as that shining light. He always did the right thing, standing up for others, being, someone that, really wants to help out the world and be a positive influence. And I've kind of grown into that, where that's just what I want to do. I mean, I want to go to another games. I'm enjoying being an athlete. I'm not quite ready to be done. And, I love my work with the museum, and it's given me a role to do this, but I just want to go out and make the world a more positive place. And if I can help someone, if I can help them have a better day, be a role model or whatever it is, that's what I want to do. And I feel like Captain America lives up to that. So having read comics on him, having watched the movies, it kind of grew into this thing where I was like, well, I really love Captain America. So why don't I just pretend I'm Captain America, but I have one leg. So I'm the one-legged Captain America.
So you have it as a screensaver. You have
Yes.
a sticker on your prosthetic. Is that right?
It's actually designed right into it. So
It's designed right into
it was
okay.
laminated. Like it was actually, Everyone always thinks that it was painted. I wish it was, but it was actually an old t-shirt that my prosthetist put on and laminated on my leg so that it, just, it's always on there. It's a reminder. And I'm actually wearing a Captain America sock right now too. So
Captain America sock. You have Captain America shirts as well,
of
t-shirts.
course, yes. And a hat. Can't forget the hat.
And is this your built-in go-to Halloween costume?
Yes, absolutely. I have a jacket as well that a friend gave me once upon a time. So it's like a leather jacket. It's not his traditional style, but it is a Captain America jacket. So
Now, does Captain America know about this? Know about your infatuation with him
I,
or with the
bel-
character?
I don't know. I hope so, but I have no idea. I just hope I'm doing him justice. That's all I hope. He does his thing. I do mine. I'm just like him, but I've got one leg or one and a half legs. So, hopefully he's okay with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we might have to see if we can reach out to Captain America and close this loop. But then there's another part of the loop to close in that you're looking up to Captain America. But if you had anybody come to you and say, you're the hero that I'm looking up to.
I've had a few occasions and, or, maybe more than a few. I'm just trying to do what I can, follow my dreams, but help others follow theirs. And for me, giving back to the community, working with, there's been a pretty long list of nonprofits I've worked with over the years. I've kind of condensed that a little bit just for my time and to be fair to everyone. I don't want to ever, be too stretched out or not give enough of my time. But through the groups I've worked with, I've had a few, been able to have a couple special moments, and that's great. I love it. It's not why I do it, but it definitely is a nice feeling for me. Whether you get a thank you or someone tells you that you're their hero, it's nice, but it's not why I do it. It's not why I think, anyone should do it. And, I hope to continue in that role and being, a shining light or someone that people can look up to, just showing that you can really accomplish anything you want in life. You just have to set your mind to it. And that's what I want to do. Like, I want to show that, if you're an amputee and you want to ski, you can do that. If you want to pretend to be a superhero, you can do that too. I mean, it really is the sky's the limit. And if you can just make the world a better place, then why shouldn't we?
Is that why you do it? And what is your role? It's hard to define what your role is sometimes, isn't it? What do you see it as your role?
Yeah. I feel like it's ever shifting. I mean, sometimes I'm, an advocate for living a healthy, active lifestyle. There's the ski side of me that, is trying to pave the way there. And sometimes they overlap. There's the public speaking side of me that goes to schools or companies that, just wants to share my story. So I agree. I mean, it's hard to define. There's so many roles. And I think that's the exciting thing, because every day is a little different. Every day has its new opportunities or challenges, and it's never the same. And being able to just go out and be myself, like who I am right now, that's me. I'm the nerdy guy that loves Captain America, that eats too much ice cream but wants to make the world a better place, and is still skiing and trying to figure his way through being an athlete while also trying to be a role model for others. That's me. Like, what you see is what you get. And I just want others to hopefully be comfortable with themselves and their own journey and understand that they can do anything. They can do it all.
Because you're still young, you're still mid-20s. You've been to 2 games. You're giving a lot back to the community. When you look back on your life, do you ever think about this? Like, when you look back on your life, what do you want to have done? What's your sort of higher purpose? Do you have a sense of what that is? Is that something that's driving you?
Yeah, it's definitely comes across my mind. I've thought about it sometimes, like how would I like to be remembered? And I would just hope that I'm remembered as, kind of all those things. But at the end of the day, even if I didn't get any recognition, even if, everyone forgot my name, but I knew that I impacted someone, that I help someone better their life or help them find joy and, was a role model to them, or whatever avenue it was, maybe inspired them to pursue their dreams, then that's a win for me. If I, as much as, I'm going to do everything in my power to make this next team and I'm going to do my darndest to win a medal, if I never accomplish that, but I can change someone's life, then that's a win in its own. And I feel like that's maybe like not quite the athlete side of me talking there, because that is a little, I don't know that every athlete would agree with that statement I just said. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to do everything I can to win those medals, or maybe I'm incorrect in saying this, but it's just that I think it's way more important to be good to people, to be positive, to try to make the world a better place, and really just look out for each other. And however that stands, whatever comes out of it, well, that's okay. I can live with that as long as I know that there was some good that came out of this.
Well, you're also, I mean, I'd make a contention just on your athlete statement there, that as an athlete, you're putting out an example, right? That you're showing up every day, that you're committed to your goals, you're committed to the process, you're committed to doing as well as you can, without necessarily saying, yes, I mean, hopefully there is a medal in your future, but not necessarily saying the expectation is that if I win a medal, then I'm successful. I mean, it sounds like you're looking at more of a process-driven kind of approach, which, I mean, I don't have any children, but for people who do have children, I imagine it's the thing that you're teaching your children, is that you want to be as prepared as you can for that moment. And the hope is that you perform in that moment, that you perform exactly the way that you'd prepared. That's it, the way you envision it in your mind. And this makes you sound like you're really pure, but you do have one vice, at least one vice that I know of, which is ice cream. Do you call it a vice, or do you not call it a vice? What's your go-to ice cream?
Some have said that I'm addicted to ice cream, and my response is that I could stop anytime I want. I just don't want to stop. But anything with chocolate is my go-to ice cream. We were chatting earlier. I have two rules. One is a hard rule. One is just kind of like a personal preference. Personal preference, I don't do mint, no mint with ice cream. If you're a mint chocolate chip fan, good on you. You keep it all. I don't want to touch it. But my hard rule is no fruit. I don't think fruit should be involved in ice cream. I prefer mine more, I'll eat vanilla if I have to, but chocolate is where it's at. And I always make the joke that I'm a downhill skier, so I need it. I need the extra, weight, the momentum going down the hill. It hasn't convinced any of the nutritionists or dietitians I've worked with yet, but I'm still trying.
You're going to get the right one. What's in your freezer right now?
Extreme chocolate mousse tracks, and then I think I have a little bit left of chocolate fudge brownie. Signature Select and Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's is not going to last long, though. I don't get it often, so this is its third day, which is pretty long for me. Normally it's gone in 1 or 2 days. So
is Ben & Jerry's like a treat for you? This is when you go and splurge?
Yeah, you could say that. It's every once in a while you need a little extra, a little more I don't know, higher quality. I think the problem with Ben & Jerry's is that they come in smaller containers, so I just eat it very quickly. So that's why I usually go for the bulk size, because it lasts 5 days instead of 2 days.
Did you do anything particularly outstanding to earn chocolate fudge brownie?
Let's see. It's been a busy week for me. So I kind of took it on myself that, I had good training sessions. I made it to the gym. I even made it to work on some days that I wasn't intending to, that I was going to be an off day, but I was like, oh, I'm going to do some work. So I was kind of looking at it. Hey, you know what? You've done well so far this week. And again, talking about that mental game, sometimes you just need a treat. You just need to treat yourself.
Well, you need to reward yourself as well, right? I mean, you said that some of the reminders for you are to remember to enjoy what you're doing, to have a smile on your face. And part of that is yes, let's have a reward. It's not breaking training too much, right? This is a
Yeah.
slight break in training. I don't think it's going to affect you, but it's going to affect you probably mentally as well, to
Mm.
feel like, hey, we're celebrating. We're celebrating. We're not celebrating the absolute end of the road, which
Mhm.
sometimes is the way that we want to look at this. I'm going to be pure. I'm going to be ascetic until I get to the end of the road. But if you celebrate a little bit along the way and say, hey, this was a good week. I did a really good job. It helps you move into that next week. So I think it sounds like a really mature way to approach it. But this has been, Tyler, this has been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your story, both of your work in the museum, but your work as an athlete, and then also, you know, being Captain America to some of the other people who are coming up. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely great. Really appreciate you joining us, and wish you all the luck in your season, in this crazy season, and in your approach to Beijing. So thanks a ton.
Thank you, Chris. It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was awesome. And for those of you who watched it, or those of you who didn't get to see the whole thing, you can go to the One Revolution page. This will be housed on the One Revolution page, and it lives there in perpetuity. And we will also eventually have this on YouTube as a podcast, so people can watch it, they can listen to it. Please follow us on Instagram, One Revolution on Instagram, at One Revolution on Facebook, and we will continue to hopefully get some updates from Tyler and be able to follow him throughout the season. So Tyler, great luck, and thank you for joining us, and keep working hard.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.